Taeyeon adjusted the settings on her chip's console, her slim fingers dancing over the holographic controls as she prepared for her first human encounter. The small research vessel hovered silently above Seoul, South Korea, protected by advanced cloaking technology that made it invisible to Earth's primitive detection systems. Subject identified, announced the ship's eye. Human female. Designation: Jae-ho Kim. Occupation: neurobiologist. Current location: National Science Research Institute, lower laboratory level. Taeyeon nodded, her violet eyes reflecting the blue glow of the screens. Her species, the Neova, had studied thousands of sentient races across the galaxy, but humans remained an enigma. Their rapid technological advancement and unique brain patterns had caught the attention of the Neovan Science Council. Begin standard observation protocol, Taeyeon instructed. She reclined in her chair as a transparent helmet descended from the ceiling and settled over her head. The device would facilitate the consciousness linking process, a completely safe procedure that allowed Neovan researchers to experience other Jae-ho packed her materials, deciding to head home early. Something felt off, but she couldn't identify what. As she drove through the nighttime streets of Seoul, strange knowledge surfaced in her mind. The exact distance to Alpha Centauri, words in languages no human had ever heard, the precise atomic structure of elements not yet discovered on Earth. In her apartment, Jae-ho collapsed onto her bed, exhausted yet somehow energized. Her dreams that night were vivid beyond anything she'd experienced, flying through alien skies, communicating with beings made of light, understanding sciences that would revolutionize human technology. Taeyeon, meanwhile, fought to maintain her separate identity as Jae-ho's sleeping brain rewired itself around the alien consciousness. The human mind wasn't rejecting her, it was absorbing her, learning from her, changing because of her. By morning, Taeyeon's ship had initiated its emergency protocols. With its pilot's consciousness trapped, it sent a distress signal to the nearest Neovan outpost, a message that would take 11 days to reach its destination. Jae-ho woke with a gasp, her mind buzzing with ideas. She rushed to her desk and began sketching designs for technology decades beyond current human capabilities, not questioning where these insights were coming from. Somewhere deep in her consciousness, Taeyeon watched in fascination and terror as her own knowledge flowed through human hands. The boundaries between observer and subject were breaking down in ways Neovan science had never predicted. "What are you?" Taeyeon wondered as she felt herself becoming part of Jae-ho's thoughts. "How is your species doing this to me?" The first day of an unprecedented joining had begun, one that would change both human and Neovan forever. 3 days had passed since Taeyeon's consciousness had become trapped within Jae-ho's mind. The Neovan researcher had stopped fighting against the strange pull of the human brain and instead focused on understanding what was happening. This was unlike any observation mission she had ever conducted. Jae-ho sat in her apartment, surrounded by dozens of papers covered in drawings and equations. She hadn't gone to work in 2 days, calling in sick after her colleagues had reacted with confusion to her sudden burst of seemingly impossible ideas. "This doesn't make sense," Jae-ho muttered, staring at a design for a quantum communication device she had sketched yesterday. "How do I know this would work? I've never studied quantum physics beyond basics." She rubbed her temples, trying to quiet the strange whispers at the edge of her awareness. Since that night in the lab, her mind felt different, expanded somehow, filled with knowledge she couldn't explain. Deep within Jae-ho's neural pathways, Taeyeon observed with growing fascination. Human brains operated differently than any species the Neova had encountered. Instead of the expected pattern of rejection, Jae-ho's neurons were forming new connections, integrating Taeyeon's alien thought patterns rather than fighting them. Remarkable, Taeyeon thought, no longer expecting Jae-ho to hear her. "Your species' neural plasticity exceeds anything in our database." Jae-ho froze, a pencil halfway to paper. Had she just heard a voice? Not with her ears, but inside her mind. "Hello," she whispered aloud to her empty apartment. "Is someone there?" Taeyeon felt a surge of excitement. For the first time, a faint connection had formed. The human had sensed her presence. She focused her remaining energy into strengthening that tenuous link. Jaiho, Taeyeon projected the thought as clearly as she could. I am here. Jaiho jumped up from her chair, knocking it over. Who said that? Where are you? She looked around her apartment, heart racing. The connection faded. Taeyeon's strength was limited, and Jiho's conscious mind was too active, too resistant to direct communication. But progress had been made. That night, Jaiho dreamed of stars again. But this time, the dream was different. She stood on what seemed to be the observation deck of a spacecraft, looking out at a purple-tinged planet with 3 moons. This is my homeworld, said a voice beside her. Jaiho turned to see a woman. At least, a being that resembled a woman. She had pale lavender skin, large violet eyes, and delicate features that seemed almost human but not quite. Who are you? Jaiho asked, somehow knowing this was more than an ordinary dream. I am Taeyeon, xenobiologist of the Nuovan Science Council, the alien replied. And I am trapped inside your mind. Jaiho woke with a gasp, sunlight streaming through her blinds. The dream remained vivid, unlike normal dreams that faded upon waking. Taeyeon, she said experimentally, feeling slightly ridiculous. Are you real? No answer came, but Jaiho felt a strange sensation, like a confirmation that wasn't words but pure concept. At her computer, Jaiho began researching consciousness theories and cases of reported telepathy. Hours passed as she dove deeper into scientific literature, occasionally writing notes in a language she didn't recognize before catching herself. This is impossible, she muttered, staring at the alien script she had unconsciously produced. Am I losing my mind? In her email, a new message appeared from her department head. Dr. Kim, please come in tomorrow. We need to discuss your recent submissions. Some concerns have been raised. Jaiho bit her lip. She had sent some of her new theoretical work to colleagues, hoping for feedback. Instead, it seemed to have triggered alarm. That evening, as Jaiho prepared for sleep, she tried something new. She sat cross-legged on her bed, closed her eyes, and consciously tried to quiet her thoughts, creating a mental space for communication. Taeyeon. She focused on the name. If you're really there, I want to understand what's happening. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then, as her mind drifted towards sleep, the barriers thinned. Jaiho, came the response, clearer than before. Your brain is different. Special. My people have studied thousands of species, but never encountered minds like yours. What are you doing in my head? Jaiho asked in her thoughts. It was an accident, Taeyeon explained. We observe other species through consciousness linking. Always temporary, always controlled. But your brain, it pulled me in completely. I cannot return to my body. Jaiho felt a chill. Are you controlling me? No, came the immediate response. I cannot control you. I can only observe, and sometimes, share knowledge. The conversation continued as Jaiho drifted deeper into the borderland between waking and sleeping. Taeyeon explained her mission, her people, and the predicament they now shared. Jaiho's scientific curiosity overcame her fear as she realized the unprecedented opportunity to learn about an advanced alien civilization. My ship will have sent a distress signal, Taeyeon explained. Others of my kind will come. To help you? Jaiho asked. A pause. I do not know how they will respond to this situation. It was never supposed to happen. Morning came, and with it a new clarity. Jaiho remembered everything from her dream conversation with Taeyeon. As she prepared for her meeting at the Research Institute, she felt less alone than she had in years. I'll try to protect you, Jaiho thought as she dressed. We'll figure this out together. A warmth spread through her mind. Gratitude from the alien consciousness that was becoming less alien by the hour. At the Institute, security guards met Jaiho at the entrance, not the usual staff, but stern-faced men in plain clothes with government identification. "Dr. Kim," one said formally, "please come with us. There are some questions about your recent work that require immediate attention." Within Jaiho's mind, Taeyen's alarm resonated like a warning bell. "Be careful," the alien thought. "They suspect something. Your government has been monitoring for signs of extraterrestrial contact." Jaiho's heart raced as she followed the men down an unfamiliar corridor. The unexpected merging of human and alien had only begun, but already their shared existence faced its first serious threat. The government facility was sterile and cold. Jaiho sat in a small white room with only a metal table and 2 chairs. She had been waiting for 45 minutes. Her fingers tapped nervously on the table as she tried to keep her breathing steady. "Stay calm." Taeyen's voice came clearer now in her mind. "They cannot detect my presence unless we show them." The door opened and a man in a dark suit entered. He placed a folder on the table and sat down across from her. "Dr. Kim," he said, his face expressionless. "I am Agent Minsu from the National Security Agency. We need to discuss your recent research submissions." Jaiho straightened her posture. "Is there a problem with my work?" Agent Minsu opened the folder and spread several papers across the table. Jaiho recognized her own handwriting, the strange equations and diagrams she had created over the past few days. "These designs," he said, tapping one of the papers, "suggest technology far beyond current scientific understanding. Our experts cannot explain how you develop these concepts." "I've been exploring new theoretical approaches," Jaiho said carefully. "Really?" Agent Minsu raised an eyebrow. "And these symbols?" He pushed forward a page covered in the alien script Jaiho had unconsciously written. Jaiho's heart pounded. "Just a personal notation system I developed to track my ideas." Inside her mind, Taeyen maintained a watchful presence. "He doesn't believe you. There are others watching this conversation." Agent Minsu leaned forward. "Dr. Kim, your brain scans from the Research Institute show unusual activity patterns. Activity that began 3 days ago. Can you explain that?" "Brain scans." Jaiho felt a chill. "You've been monitoring me. National Security Protocol requires surveillance of all top-level research facilities," he replied smoothly. "Now, I'll ask once more. Have you had contact with any external intelligence?" The way he said those last words confirmed Taeyen's warning. They suspected alien contact. "I think I need to leave," Jaiho said, standing up. Agent Minsu remained seated. "I'm afraid that's not possible at this time, Dr. Kim. We need to run some tests to ensure you haven't been compromised." 2 more agents entered the room. One carried what looked like medical equipment. "Let me help." Taeyen's voice became urgent in Jaiho's mind. "I can access your physical systems temporarily. Do you trust me?" "Yes," Jaiho thought back desperately. In an instant, Jaiho felt a strange shift as Taeyen's consciousness moved forward within her mind. Her body suddenly felt lighter, faster, and she knew things she shouldn't know, like exactly how many steps to the emergency exit, which guards were armed, and the blind spots in the security camera system. "What's happening?" Agent Minsu started to rise as he noticed the change in Jaiho's posture and the sudden alertness in her eyes. Jaiho's body moved with unexpected speed and precision. She dodged the reaching hands of the agents, slipped past them, and was out the door before they could react. In the hallway, she moved with perfect efficiency, turning exactly when needed to avoid security personnel. "How are you doing this?" Jaiho asked mentally as her body ran down a service corridor she hadn't even known existed. "Your body has capabilities you never learned to use," Taeyen explained as they burst through an emergency exit. "I'm merely accessing them." Alarms blared behind them as Jaiho ran across the parking lot, moving faster than she ever had before. She reached her car just as security personnel poured out of the building. "Keys in left pocket," Taeyen guided. "Drive normally until we're out of sight." Jai-ho followed the instructions, pulling out of the parking lot just as the first security vehicles mobilized. She drove calmly until they reached the main road, then took a series of turns that Tae-yun suggested to lose any potential followers. "They will track your car," Tae-yun warned. "We need to abandon it soon." 20 minutes later, Jai-ho parked in a crowded shopping mall garage and walked away from her vehicle. She stopped at an ATM and withdrew the maximum amount allowed, then bought a prepaid phone from a convenience store. "Where are we going?" Jai-ho asked silently as she boarded a bus. "Somewhere remote," Tae-yun replied. "They will check your apartment, your friends, your family. We need time to understand what's happening between us." Jai-ho felt control of her body return fully to her as Tae-yun's presence receded into the background of her mind. The alien consciousness seemed fatigued from the exertion. "That was," Jai-ho whispered, finding a seat at the back of the bus. "Incredible." "A temporary solution," Tae-yun responded weakly. "They know something now. They will not stop looking." 3 hours and several transportation changes later, Jai-ho checked into a small countryside motel under a false name, paying cash. The simple room had one bed, a small television, and faded curtains. She closed the door and finally allowed herself to collapse on the bed, physically and emotionally exhausted. "Tae-yun, are you still there?" "Yes," came the tired response. "But I need time to recover. Controlling your physical systems is difficult." Jai-ho stared at the ceiling. They were ready for this. They'd been watching for aliens, haven't they? "Most advanced species are," Tae-yun confirmed. "But they don't understand what's happening between us." "Neither do I. Fully." That night, as Jai-ho drifted toward sleep, she found herself once again in that dream space where communication with Tae-yun became clearer. The alien appeared to her as she had before, but her form seemed more solid, more defined. "Our minds are integrating more deeply," Tae-yun explained. "That's why I could control your body today, and why you can access my knowledge." "What happens next?" Jai-ho asked. "My people will come looking for me," Tae-yun said. "And your government will continue hunting us. But there's something more important happening." Tae-yun's violet eyes met Jai-ho's. "We're becoming something new. Something neither human nor Neovan. And I believe it may be the most important discovery either of our species has ever made." In the morning, Jai-ho woke with a renewed sense of purpose. She was no longer just a scientist on the run. She was part of a first-contact situation unlike any humanity had imagined. And somewhere in a government facility, agents were reviewing security footage, realizing that whatever had taken over Dr. Kim's body had moved with inhuman precision. The hunt had only just begun. 3 weeks had passed since Jai-ho and Tae-yun fled the government facility. They now lived in an abandoned cabin deep in the mountains, far from cities and surveillance cameras. The small wooden structure had no electricity, but Jai-ho had purchased solar panels and basic supplies from different stores to avoid detection. Inside the cabin, Jai-ho sat cross-legged on a worn rug, eyes closed in deep concentration. Around her, small objects, pebbles, pencils, coins, hovered a few inches above the floor. "Focus on the energy flow, not the objects themselves," Tae-yun guided from within their shared mind. Jai-ho breathed slowly, feeling the strange connection between her thoughts and the floating items. The pencil rotated slowly, responding to her mental command. "This should be impossible," Jai-ho whispered, opening her eyes to watch the objects maintain their positions in the air. "Humans can't do this. Neovans can't either, not like this," Tae-yun responded. "Our telepathic abilities allow minor environmental interaction, but nothing this precise. We're creating something new together." The merging of their minds had accelerated over the weeks. What began as 2 separate consciousnesses was evolving into something more integrated. Jai-ho could now access Tae-yun's memories and knowledge almost as easily as her own, while Tae-yun experienced human emotions with an intensity that shocked her. Jai-ho allowed the floating objects to gently settle back to the floor. She walked to the small table where she had assembled various electronic components, salvaged from devices she had purchased and modified. "Do you really think we can contact your ship?" Jai-Ho asked, picking up what looked like a heavily modified satellite phone. "The basic principles are sound," Taeyeon replied. "Your human technology combined with my knowledge of Neovan communication systems should create a signal strong enough to reach orbit." Jai-Ho worked through the afternoon, soldering connections and adjusting settings. Their hands moved with a strange dual expertise, Jai-Ho's scientific training guided by Taeyeon's alien knowledge. Occasionally, Jai-Ho would write symbols or make adjustments without consciously deciding to do so, Taeyeon's influence flowing seamlessly through their shared nervous system. As the sun began to set, Jai-Ho carried their creation outside. The device resembled a small satellite dish connected to a jumble of circuit boards and a laptop. She positioned it toward the clear evening sky and activated the power. "Now we wait," Taeyeon said. For hours, they sat beside the humming device, watching stars appear in the darkening sky. Jai-Ho pulled a blanket around her shoulders as the mountain air grew cold. "What if your people don't understand what's happened to us?" Jai-Ho asked finally, voicing the fear that had grown in both their minds. "Neovan's prize knowledge above all else," Taeyeon replied, but Jai-Ho could feel her uncertainty. They should recognize the scientific importance of our merger. Suddenly, the laptop screen flickered. Symbols appeared, Neovan script that Jai-Ho could now read as easily as Korean. "Connection established," Jai-Ho read aloud. "Identify." Taeyeon guided their hands to type a response, explaining her research mission and the unexpected consciousness merger with a human subject. The reply came quickly, "Consciousness corruption detected. Status: critical. Subject has bypassed standard isolation protocols. Purification team dispatched. Arrival: 7 Earth days. Maintain position." Jai-Ho's hands trembled as Taeyeon translated the full meaning behind the clinical words. Purification meant elimination of the corrupted consciousness. Both of them. "They're going to kill us," Jai-Ho whispered. "They fear what they don't understand," Taeyeon replied, her mental voice thick with emotion. Disappointment, anger, fear, feelings that would have been muted in her normal Neovan state. "My people believe your consciousness has contaminated mine beyond recovery." Jai-Ho stood abruptly, knocking over the communication device. "Can we run? Hide somewhere they can't find us. Neovan tracking technology can detect my consciousness signature anywhere on Earth," Taeyeon explained. "And your government is still searching for you too. The unusual energy patterns from our experiments may have already revealed our location." They returned to the cabin in silence, both minds racing with the same thoughts. 7 days until the Neovan hunters arrived, probably less before human authorities located them. That night, instead of sleeping, they sat facing each other, or rather, Jai-Ho sat facing a mirror, looking at the face that now housed two beings. In the reflection, she sometimes caught glimpses of another presence behind her eyes. Violet flecks in her brown irises, expressions that didn't quite match her own. "We need to show them what we've become," Taeyeon said finally. "Not just a human with alien knowledge, or an alien trapped in a human body. Something entirely new." Jai-Ho nodded. "A true synthesis." Over the next days, they'd pushed the boundaries of their merged abilities. They discovered they could heal small injuries almost instantly, process information at incredible speeds, and even perceive energy patterns invisible to normal human or Neovan senses. On the 6th day, as they practiced extending their telekinetic abilities, Jai-Ho froze. "Someone's coming," she said, sensing a disturbance in the forest around them. Their enhanced perception detected multiple vehicles approaching on the distant mountain road. "Government agents," Taeyeon confirmed, accessing their shared senses. "At least 12 people, armed. They found us." Jai-Ho quickly gathered their most important notes and the communication device. "How far can we run?" "It doesn't matter now," Taeyeon replied. "My people will arrive tomorrow. We need to prepare for both threats." As night fell, Jaiho stood on the cabin porch, watching distant flashlight beams move through the trees as the agents established a perimeter. Above, the stars seemed clearer than ever before, and she knew one of them contained a Neovan ship approaching Earth with a single purpose: to erase the unprecedented merging of minds they represented. "We won't let them separate us," Jaiho promised, speaking both to Taeyeon and to herself. "What we've become is too important." Within their shared mind, Taeyeon's consciousness embraced Jaiho's with a warmth that transcended physical touch. "Together, then," she agreed, "no matter what comes tomorrow." The synthesis of human and alien had created something neither world was prepared for, but it was something both worlds desperately needed to understand. Dawn broke over the mountains as Jaiho stood in the small clearing outside the cabin. Government agents had formed a perimeter during the night, their positions revealed to her enhanced senses despite their attempts at stealth. Above, barely visible in the morning sky, a small dot of light grew steadily brighter: the approaching Neovan vessel. "They're all coming for us," Jaiho whispered, from above and all around. "We're ready," Taeyeon's voice resonated through their shared consciousness. The once distinct boundary between human and alien had faded further during the night. Their merger had progressed to a point where individual thoughts flowed seamlessly between them. A helicopter appeared over the distant ridge, the sound of its rotors cutting through the morning quiet. From the forest, agents in tactical gear began to advance toward the cabin. "Dr. Kim," a voice called through a megaphone. "You are surrounded. Please surrender peacefully. We only want to help you." Jaiho smiled faintly. "They still think I'm infected or controlled by something they can remove." "The Neovans believe the same about me," Taeyeon added. Their shared body stood calmly as armed agents approached from all directions. The helicopter hovered overhead, kicking up dust and pine needles in swirling patterns. Jaiho/Taeyeon watched the patterns with newfound perception, seeing the energy flows that connected all things. The lead agent stopped 10 meters away, weapon lowered but ready. "Dr. Kim, please come with us. Whatever has happened to you, we can fix it." Jaiho spoke, though the voice contained subtle harmonics that hadn't been present before. "There's nothing to fix, Agent Minsu. There's something you need to witness." Above them, the air shimmered as a Neovan ship dropped its cloaking field. The sleek silver craft, shaped like a teardrop, descended slowly until it hovered 20 meters above the ground. The human agents scrambled in confusion, weapons now pointing upward at the alien vessel. A beam of pale blue light shot down from the ship, materializing into 3 tall, lavender-skinned figures. The Neovan hunters stood impassively, their large violet eyes fixed on Jaiho. Researcher Taeyeon, the central figure, spoke in the musical Neovan language, which Jaiho now understood perfectly. "Your consciousness has been corrupted beyond recovery. We are here to end your suffering and remove all traces of this contamination." Agent Minsu shouted orders to his team, who formed a defensive position. "What are they saying?" "Dr. Kim, get behind us." Jaiho/Taeyeon remained exactly where they stood, the center point between two worlds that had never truly met until this moment. With a slight gesture of their hand, a shimmering field of energy formed around them, not a barrier, but an amplifier for the words that would follow. "I speak to both humans and Neovans," they said, their voice carrying perfectly to all present in both Korean and Neovan languages simultaneously. "What you see before you is not a corruption or contamination. It is evolution." The lead Neovan hunter raised a slender device. "The human brain has overwhelmed Taeyeon's consciousness patterns. This merger was never meant to occur." "No," Jaiho/Taeyeon replied. "It wasn't planned, but that doesn't make it wrong. We have become something new, something that carries the strengths of both species without their limitations." To demonstrate, they raised their hands. The agents' weapons gently lifted from their grips, hovering in the air before disassembling themselves piece by piece. At the same time, the Neovan hunters' devices floated away from their hands. "Impossible," whispered the Neovan leader. Such precise control over multiple objects requires a telepathic capacity beyond any recorded species. Agent Minsu stepped forward cautiously. "Dr. Kim, are you still in there?" "I am Jeho," they answered. "And I am Taeyeon. And I am something more than either alone." With careful movements of their hands, they drew patterns in the air. Energy flowed from their fingertips, creating complex three-dimensional models, solutions to scientific problems both civilizations had struggled with for generations. "Here," they explained, pointing to one glowing structure, "is the key to sustainable fusion that humans have sought for decades." They turned to the Neovans and indicated another pattern. "And here is the solution to the neural degradation that has plagued your people for centuries." The Neovan hunters exchanged glances, their telepathic communication evident in their synchronized movements. The human agents watched in fascination as the glowing models rotated in the air. "What exactly are you offering?" Agent Minsu asked carefully. "A bridge," Jeho/Taeyeon replied. "Humans possess creativity, adaptability, and emotional depth that Neovans lack. Neovans have knowledge, telepathic abilities, and technological understanding beyond human reach. Together, we represent a path forward for both species." The lead Neovan stepped closer, studying the merged being with analytical eyes. The council ordered purification. "This merger violates our most sacred protocols." "Your protocols never anticipated this possibility," they answered. "We offer ourselves as proof that cooperation between our species can create something greater than either alone." Agent Minsu lowered his empty hands. "We need assurances that Earth's security isn't threatened. And we require evidence that this merger won't destabilize Neovan society," added the alien hunter. Jeho/Taeyeon nodded, understanding the fears of both sides. "We will provide those assurances through action, not words. Judge us by what we create, not by what you fear we might become." Over the next hours, as the mountain sun climbed higher, an unprecedented negotiation took place between human authorities, Neovan representatives, and the merged being that represented a new path forward. The helicopter landed, more officials arrived, and temporary shelters were erected as discussions continued into the night. Jeho/Taeyeon demonstrated abilities and knowledge that convinced both sides of their value. By morning, a tentative agreement had been reached. They would be given protected status as the first ambassador of a new form of existence, with responsibilities to both civilizations. As they stood watching the sunrise the following day, Agent Minsu approached them. "The government has agreed to establish a research facility where you can work. The Neovans will maintain a presence in Earth orbit." "A beginning," Jeho/Taeyeon smiled. "What do we call you now?" Minsu asked. "Jeho. Taeyeon. Something else?" They considered the question, feeling the perfectly balanced consciousness within them. No longer two beings fighting for control, but a harmonious whole. "You can still call me Jeho," they answered. "But what I represent is something humanity has always sought and Neovans have always studied. Evolution. Not through conflict, but through synthesis." Above them, the Neovan ship shimmered in the morning light, a symbol of a universe far larger and more diverse than either species had fully understood before this moment. The true evolution had just begun.